Hey creatives, welcome back to the Almost Creative Podcast. I'm your host, Travis, and today I am joined by Steve Long with Blink Tees. What's up, Steve?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's going to be a lot of fun. So Steve is the, would you call it co-founder of Blink Tees then?
Co-founder. That sounds way more important, but yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you have that, but you actually have a couple businesses, which is actually kind of fitting with our topic, which we'll get into in a second. But you have a couple other things you're working on too as well, right?
Yeah. So Blink Tees, we do t-shirts, apparel, all that good stuff. And then I have a company called Anti-Normal Entertainment. We do like trivia, music, bingo, euchre nights at different places. Do a lot of team building, corporate events through that. And then I have a networking company. So me and a couple other folks, we throw networking events and bring folks together. So yeah. Those three.
You don't hear the word euchre a lot. What is euchre?
Euchre, spelled exactly how it sounds. No, euchre, euchre. Like if you grew up in the Detroit area or Michigan or the UP, you know how to play euchre from a young age. It's a card game, trick taking. You got partners, and jacks are trump, except when they're not. It's pretty complicated to explain.
That makes a lot of sense because I have a friend from Flint, and he tried to get us to play euchre in college.
As he should.
And he also made falafels. That was a Michigan thing. I don't know if you heard of that one. I guess. I don't know. He made falafels and we played euchre.
Okay.
So
yeah, falafels was not, I mean,
maybe it's a Flint thing. The Flint people are a little different because they're water, you know.
Oh man. Yeah. That water thing. That was sad. That was messed up. But, yeah.
See, I'm the one putting us on a tangent.
Yeah, exactly. You're putting us on a tangent. You're the one being a little edgy. Like, I'm worried, and you're the one taking us off the rails.
But no, Travis. So I wanted to bring you on, Steve. So, you spoke on this topic. Has it been like 2 years now? It's been a while.
I am the worst at dates. It was within the last 10 years and longer than yesterday. So
I don't think you've known me for 10 years. So it hasn't been 10 years.
All right, let's narrow that down.
So let's say 2 years.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And you did a topic on ADHD and essentially running a business with ADHD and what does that look like? And it was pretty eye-opening because I think a few months before then, my wife had found out that she has ADHD. She had started going to a therapist and they had discovered that. So I immediately wanted to make sure I got to hear your thing. And you'd opened my eyes because you'd shared some books and everything that I thought were extremely helpful with us figuring that out. And what I want to encourage is like if someone's listening to this too and they don't have ADHD, they should definitely stick around because I do not have ADHD, or at least I don't believe I do, but it's helped me drastically, one, in my marriage, but two, just in business because when you're doing B2C or B2B, you don't know who the other person is on the other side of the table that you might be working with. Yep. And they may have ADHD. So just knowing these things, I feel like can really prepare you. And I also just want to say too, like going into it, I was like, man, ADHD, that's like a negative thing. But then after reading these books and kind of studying on it, actually one of the books, it talks about how it's essentially a superpower. You can do things that someone like me might not even be capable of because of that focus and that intent.
Mere mortal.
Right. We don't have the superpower. So that's why I want to have you on because you have great insight. But before we get into the ADHD thing, let's talk a little bit about just your history with your businesses that you have. So starting with Blink Tees, when did that all become a thing?
Yeah. So I think I have to go back to, I don't know. Like I said, I'm bad with years, 15 years ago, maybe longer. No, it's probably longer. I was managing my brother's band. Mm-hmm. I was looking for t-shirts for this dodgeball team that I was on. And I just went from place to place to place. And, they'd just be like, yeah, we can't do that. I'm like, all right, well, why can't you do that? Yeah. And they're like, the art's bad. I'm like, okay, why is it like, help me. Like, I'm trying to give you business. Yeah. I don't you're the expert. I'm not. So then, just started doing that myself and, made some shirts for those. And then other people asked like, hey, can you help me? I'm like, sweet. Figured out some pricing. And then that was kind of a side gig for a while with this company called Spitting Image Tees and Promo, try to put that on stuff like a business card. It takes up the whole thing.
You need two t-shirts.
Yeah.
You have half of the logo and
6X t-shirt just to get it all on there. But then, so I was, working and doing this part-time and, took on, a partner at the time. And it was just a part-time gig.
Yeah.
And so one of the times my wife was like, hey, so you're gone 2-3 nights a week doing this. It's not really making us any money. You're just gone.
Yeah.
So just really encouraged me hey, you should either do this, and go do it, or not do it. And so we started a new company called Blink Tees, and me and two other guys, and one of those is left, and made a run of it, quit our jobs, and started doing Blink Tees.
That's awesome. Where'd the name come from?
So the name came from when we sat down to do this. Like I said, spitting image tease and promo was like super long. So we're like, all right, we want it to be like boom, boom, like something really short.
Yeah.
We want it to be at the top of the alphabet, because what we found is spitting image, if they do things alphabetically, was always like page 2 or 3 at the bottom of a list. It took a long time for them to get to that. So like, hey, we wanted to start with like A, B, or C, so it'd be up near the top of the list. We had all these things. We had, someone would come up with an idea and someone would type in and see, is there an Instagram? Is there a website? Like, how accessible was that? So it was like 3, 4, 5 hours into this, and we're just going on and on and on. And finally didn't come up with anything. Night 2, we come back. We're like 2 or 3 hours into this.
Yeah.
And finally, Jeff, who's my business partner, was like, this was a lot easier when I was in high school. I'm like, okay. And he started when he was a sophomore in high school. They had to start a little company.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, I just snatched up the domain, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what was that called? And he goes, it's called Blink Tees. And I was like, Blink Tees, top of the alpha. I go, do you still have all? He goes, yeah, I still own the domain. I still own I'm like, dude, where were you like hours ago? So we figured out, bought him out for probably like $1 or something, all of his domains. And, and that would also the toppers. I'm a big like Blink 182 fan. So to even have Blink in that tie-in, just made a ton of sense. But he could have saved us about 8 hours by just, offering up that information. Or he had a terrible logo. That was so bad, Jeff. It was so bad. So bad. So bad. Anyways, it's good now.
That's awesome. I want to get into our topic, which is ADHD. And before we kind of start sharing on your experience with that, I would love to have you just kind of describe like what ADHD is from your own perspective. Because I know even like before we found out like my wife had it, I always kind of had this stereotype of like, oh, it was the kid who was like bouncing off the walls in high school, and that's what I always thought of ADHD, but it's really a lot different than that. And it can show up a lot differently in different people too. So like, how would you explain what ADHD is?
Oh, that's a great question. So first of all, like I'm not a doctor. Like you're
oh yeah, we should put a disclaimer in the bottom. Steve is not a doctor. I
am not a doctor.
He has a t-shirt.
I am not an expert on any of this, but like your wife, she went to an expert, like they diagnosed her. Like I recommend, if you think you have that, you don't just listen to some bearded dude t-shirt guy, but like go get that checked out. And also I'm not, I don't still like to define it. I don't even really know, but I know a lot of it has to do like where you put your focus.
Yeah.
And, a couple of those things have to do with, dopamine. A lot of that is like we're chasing dopamine. I've read in some of these books that a lot of people with ADHD have a dopamine deficiency.
Do you want to share those books too? It's the two that I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So a lot of what I the first book I read was, there was a guy who actually showed up on a screen printing podcast named Peter Shankman, and he wrote a book called Faster Than Normal. So he's the one that talks about it being a superpower. And a lot of his came from a book called ADHD 2.0 by Dr. Hollowell, like is in Jerry Hollowell, Ginger Spice, same.
I still don't know who you're talking. I don't know
the
that.
Spice Girls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she was Ginger Spice of the Spice Girls. I don't know if they're related or not. I think he might be from overseas. So we'll just assume that they're married. I don't know. But anyway, so that's the there's gonna be some tangents.
See, we don't need the question.
Yeah. But so where were we again?
Dopamine. Sorry, I'm the one who actually derailed you. Funny enough.
Yeah.
But the dopamine. Was it his book that talks about skydiving and uses that as an example of dopamine? Or was that the ADHD 2.0?
Yeah. So I
did them back to back. So they kind
of also too, like Peter, like a lot of what he references with like the medicine and the science is from 2.0. So sometimes I don't remember exactly which of the book that came from. What was the skydiving reference? It's been a while since
it was something like, there was something because it's such a adrenaline rush to skydive, but then and so it was like almost like a positive of like doing things like that to kind of get your dopamine hit, and then you're kind of cleared for a while, and you maybe were going to go to this, but like with ADHD, it's kind of like this constant dopamine. He had another reference to this, probably actually a little more digestible, no pun intended, but the pizza one, he was talking about how like he can't just have like a pizza.
Yeah, this was Peter Shankman.
Yeah. And so like, it's not like you could just have one slice of the pizza. Like he would talk about his neighbor would bring over like whatever leftover pizza they had, and he would just eat all the pizza.
Right.
And it was like that dopamine feel of like eating the pizza. He just couldn't stop.
Yep.
Dopamine feel.
Oh, and so what he was talking about with the skydiving was, you have stuff that essentially, it's kind of like sugars where the simple ones will give you that fix for a little bit, but if you go like skydiving, you can like live off of that rush.
Yeah, it's almost like your bucket is filled for a while and it's like overflowing, whereas the pizza, it's like a temporary thing where it's like you eat it, you filled it, and then you see the other piece and you're like, oh, I could go for another hit, but like you go skydiving and it's like, okay, I had my hit for like a week, I'm good.
Totally. And and it could be as simple as like I just need to stop doing this and go on my phone and look at something else, that can be that quick little dopamine.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a lot of times, I think, some procrastination tends to be a big thing, like the doom scrolling, it's just a way to kind of escape that and get that hit from somewhere else. So I think there's a lot of that. And then I think it's just too, like with your focus, I think there's just a lot of how are you managing focus, and for me, that is a challenge. But also, like you said, there's good times, like in times of chaos, like being able to like fire all over the place. Like, I tend to be like when stuff hits the fan, my brain is, thinking 10 times down the road. And so I tend to be somebody to go to, in those times. So, I think managing focus is a big part of that. Like we're always, I say we a lot. I mean, me, not at all. I don't try to lump us all in the same boat because everything is different. But I think a lot of us are trying to like, just, all right, how do we get that dopamine rush? And not just, it could be from skydiving, or it could just be from like, all right, I just need to take a break and drink a cup of coffee for a little bit. So
is that why you think a lot of times ADHD is also associated with starting things and not finishing it? Because like in a way, the starting can be a dopamine hit, but then to actually carry through with it, it could kind of trail off.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's this concept called, which talks about, basically like how you are when you're daydreaming. So with the starting and stopping, like there's one of the concepts that I think hit me the most in ADHD 2.0 was this concept of like, you have this default mode network that all of us, like when you're not trying to accomplish a task versus like task positive mode, those are the two things that are constantly battling. And so I think with starting things up, like you're able to dream, you're able to use your creativity. You're getting to bounce all over the place and you're getting to start things new. And then when you shift into this is a business that now is, kind of running on its own. Now that gets into more of those task positive mode kind of things, which, unless we're jumping in and fixating on, those tend to be the ones that aren't as exciting and don't give you that dopamine rush as starting something new. So for me personally, that, that's why I have 3 businesses and then like 3 other hobbies. And then within Blink Tees, we just started a retail thing within, so, for me, I think it has to do a little bit with my creativity. Cause I don't think all, people with ADHD are creatives. I think a lot of them are.
Right.
But for me, I think starting the new thing has to be with, I've got a million things running through my mind and, I think they should be out. I personally think they should be out in the world. So I'm going to start some of these new things and I get the excitement. I get those dopamine rushes from, starting those new creative ideas.
Now, could that be a positive thing? Because it's for some people, it's hard to have the idea to start or like the willpower to start it. Whereas like, it seems like for you, if given the opportunity, you would like start something tomorrow because you just like enjoy that kind of rush of it.
Yep.
So like, how would you then see that to the finish? Like, so even like with the things you have going on, like with Anti-Normal, like how were you able to start that, but then can carry it on, even though maybe that high of starting it had already weighed?
Other people.
Yeah.
So if I didn't have a business partner, Jeff, who's amazing, by the way. And, we've done a lot of those personality tests. We've done a lot of, the DISC and the Myers-Briggs and, all of those different things. And we are exact polar opposites.
Yeah.
But we've done that work to realize that. And so like, we've been able to put language around it when I'm just like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just asking you to go show up at this meeting that I'm supposed to be at, but like, just go say hi to people for 30 minutes and leave. Like, what do you mean you can't do that? Like for him, like that's something he would be thinking about and clenching up about for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, why can't you have 5 emails to send? That should take you 2 minutes. I'm like, well, no, the 5 emails take me 30 minutes, you know, and just being able to understand where each of us come from there, because we put in the work and figured out some of the language behind that and some of the reasoning behind that has been helpful. And then like with anti-normal, you know, I was doing that by myself for a while. And then my wife, Julie, took that over doing the back end part of that. And that is, you know, probably would not be around still if she weren't managing those tools and making sure people get paid and doing all that part of that. So, and then with the village networking, I mean, we started that, you know, basically I started that being like, I can't, we need all of our skills to do this because, without that would not happen.
Yeah.
So
when you're looking to add on other people, are you actually, would you say, because a lot of times whenever people are looking to add more people, they're looking for people just like themselves, but do you actually find yourself maybe looking for people with different traits and personalities then?
Yes. We don't need more me's. Like that's, I'm not that I'm saying that like I have all the ideas and like bringing on people with ideas is bad, but like if you had a bunch of Steves in an organization, that is a terrible organization. Like that is an organization that has these awesome ideas and that people get excited about and then get disappointed in because they don't follow through on anything. Yeah. So no, I look for people that are essentially the opposite of me. Yeah.
Let's talk about your history with ADHD a little bit. So when did you find out that you have ADHD?
I don't like it's weird. Like I don't exactly remember when it was like, oh, I totally have it. But like looking back, it was like, oh, I've always like as soon as that concept hit, it was like, all right, I've had this for a long time. Yeah. But like you said, like, you know, the people that were on Ritalin was the thing. You know, not Adderall. It was like Ritalin. Yeah. You know, I look at the kids that were on, and they were the hyper ones. You know, they were the ones that were like all over the place. And I was. You know, I wasn't like hyper, but I was the one taught you. Like, if you look at my report card, it was Steve distracts himself and others. Steve needs to stay on task. Steve needs to develop time management skills. Steve, you know, like is a distraction to others. You know, so me, I think I got bored with the way school was being taught. Yeah. And, you know, I love school. I love education. You know, a lot of my family members, my wife, my mother-in-law, like all in education, my brother, but I think at least at the time back then, everybody was being taught the same way. Yeah. And, you know, for me, that just was sitting in a classroom, like having somebody go through and talk about the stuff that I like am also supposed to read in a book made no sense to me and was not the way that I like to consume. And, so I think I got distracted often and daydreamed a lot. And, you know, so I think for me, I know that I've always had it. And then just to, you know, I think it was when reading these books where I was like, other people are like me. Yeah. You know, I just figured that there was something wrong with me. I figured like, you know, I was always letting people down. I think a lot of times as I've interacted with people, like we really, really want to do well by people, but like the way our brain works, like unless we're really on it, you know, we're going to let people down. I'm going to miss a text to somebody. I'm going to miss an email. Yeah. I'm going to intend to respond and not, you know, because, you know, I want to put a heartfelt thought behind it and not just a quick message, but then I forget completely. Right. And now they're like, hey, are we okay? And I'm like, no, like you're one of my favorite people, but I wanted to give you a really good heartfelt response and then moved on to something else and totally forgot about it. Yeah. So I think for me, I'm always on the verge of like, who am I letting down today? And how can I let them know that I care about them? And that this is just a function thing for me, not So I think there's a lot of that.
How has that made it hard for business on the business side?
Yeah. For me, it's hard. You know, without putting things in place, like if I didn't have a Jordan, who is our account manager, who is like just one of he's a gifted task person. And also too, like with Jordan, he's a task. So a lot of task people can also not be good people sometimes. And he just has this really good mix of being able to do that, but then also be able to, see where the customer is coming from, or see where I'm coming from, or see where Jeff in production is coming from. And then with like, they all know who I am. Like I'm very vocal about it. I'm not trying, I'm saying this is where I need help.
Yeah.
This is where I'm good. And so I think just being out there and saying, calling what everybody kind of suspects, putting it out there. Like I'd love to have people read those books, because then now there's a language behind it.
Yeah.
Especially with Faster Than Normal. It's less, clinical.
Right.
And so you're just hearing stories of people and you're like, oh, that's so me. Oh, that's so me. Oh, that's so me.
Yeah.
So then when my business partner or my spouse or, people read that, they can have an idea of like, oh, this is how that feels, is really just helpful. Cause now there's a language around it, and I'm not just this guy who, just forgets to do stuff or moves on to other things without doing them. But like, there are other people, and there is a reason up here for the way this stuff happens.
Yeah.
So as disappointing as that can be to people a lot, at least they know, all right, well, that is, there's a reason behind it. That's not just they're lazy or they don't care, or like in most cases, like that's not it. We're functioning in a different way.
Yeah. I think that getting people to where they can understand you is so important. And that's why it's so important also to not be ashamed of it, because if you're ashamed of it, you're probably going to hide it, and then you're going to let someone down, and they're going to just think that like you don't like them or you have something against them. Whereas you never meant to do that. It was just, this is what happened. And that's not your goal. And I think it's important to just be like transparent about it.
Yeah. Like you sent me a questionnaire to do before the show and I read it. And I was like, oh no, that's going to take me forever. And I just kind of didn't do it. So I'm sorry. But like I did read I did read all the stuff that we were going to talk about. I did some homework ahead of time, but the ones that were like these big paragraphs, I'm like, I would talk to you about it a million times, but for me to sit there and do that task was just, my chest got clenched up and overwhelming. So I hope I didn't let you down by not doing that.
And exactly. So because you're transparent about these things, and obviously I heard you speak about this, I understood that like, okay, there's a chance he might not fill this out. Like I even kind of thought in the back of my head, I'm like, is this intimidating? And like, is he not going to fill it out? But it's like, it'll be all right, because I know he'll come prepared, because he's probably very like, he wants to make sure this comes across really well, because I've seen him prepare on this. So even if he doesn't fill out the questionnaire, I know he'll probably come prepared. So I wasn't too concerned. I wasn't too concerned. But again, if say we had a guest on the podcast and I didn't know these things about them and they just straight up didn't fill out the thing, I'd be like, well, what do they have against us? Like they not care? Are they going to show up unprepared? Like I'd be worrying about it. But like, because you're transparent about who you are, I'm not worried, because I know you'll still show up. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'll probably show up 5 minutes late, which I didn't. I was on time.
No, you were on time. But, you were calling me and I wasn't ready. So, but I think all these traits are good. Whenever we start, I was talking about how this is beneficial for even those who don't have ADHD, because it helps you with the other side of the table if you have a client who does. I actually saw this play out in our own business. So we were working with a company, and essentially like they asked for us to do more things. And I was like, okay, well, there's going to come a point where there'll become a price tag with doing these more things. And I had shared that with them, and I thought we were all on the same page. So we started doing the more things. So then we added to the invoice, and then it was like, whoa, like what's going on? Why are we getting charged more or whatever? And I'm like, oh, because of these things. And I kept outlining, we had this conversation on this date, and we had this thing and that thing. But he was so focused, and the company was so focused on the price, that they totally were missing what I was even outlining to them. Later to find out that like the owner of this company had ADHD, and I started reading these books. So then I went back to the root problem, and I'm like, this is the problem, and this is why you're not seeing it. Is that right? And they're like, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, okay, well, what's up with this? It's like, oh, we've been screwed over before in the past. And so he was so hyper focused on kind of like, he thought I was pulling a bait and switch like so many other people have. So I could have literally had like recordings of the times we talked about these things, but because he was so tied up in this other thing that we couldn't move forward. And I think it was very helpful to me to understand that side of like the picture of like, okay, I need to approach this differently than I would have if it was someone maybe who was like me, who's very analytical and like task oriented and everything. Because I could have said that to another person or another company that is maybe doesn't have ADHD and they're very task oriented, and they would have like read all the things like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But because the way he was kind of thinking and the company was thinking, it was like, it just didn't like align. And so having these skill sets and understanding just made me be able to service him better essentially. So
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes even, hey, can you repeat back to me what I just said?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Cause a lot of times too, like you might say something and then the brain is just going on to something else. And, we're usually you see that far off look and you're like, hey, can you repeat back to me what getting us back on task? Because again, that task, positive versus the default mode, that for most people, you're able to just flip right back and forth through that.
Yeah.
But, in reading this book, it's like with people with ADHD, all that's happening at the same time. It's kind of like if you've got a cord, an HDMI cord that's kind of plugged in where you can kind of see the screens, melding together. And, like that's where our brain is constantly working. So when you say something to me, I might get off on a tangent about that, but you haven't seen that, in my brain. And now you're like, dude, where are you? Are you even listening to what I'm saying?
It's almost like your soul left your body and you're like, you're over here, but I think we're still having this conversation. But you're over here and not ready to come back yet.
Right. Exactly. So even understanding, when you were talking about understanding people, like I'm not bored, I might not be bored by what you're saying, but what you said just like absolutely flipped something in my mind. And I'm like, I'm there and forgetting I'm supposed to be here. And so like, even just giving, a little bit of grace there and being like, hey, all right, what are we thinking about? What do we know? When do we need to come back here? Even just with some love and some grace, bringing people back into that, we didn't mean to do that. We just do that.
Yeah.
So
what are some ways the traits of ADHD have showed up in your business and actually have benefited your business or you as a business owner?
Yeah, I think a lot of like who I am as a person and my personality is tied up around like having ADHD. Like I think I'm always constantly like thinking of other things. Like I think the creativity comes out because of that. I think even a lot of the times, not always, but you'll see a lot of extroverts, end up having ADHD because they're always looking for that dopamine. So we're always out trying new things. We're always out and about. Looking for things. A lot of us are extroverts, not all of us, but a lot of us are those extroverted people. And so for me, being the face of our company and being somebody that goes to a lot of networking events, I tend to be somebody that is memorable in a lot of ways. Yeah. And, I think a lot of our creativity, where we come from, comes from me just being able to think and, my brain not being able to turn off at night and like, from 1 to 3 in the morning, hyper focusing on some of the ideas that become major parts of what we're doing. So I think a lot of that, one of our slogans with Blink Tees is the anti-normal, screen printing company, which then I brought in to kind of have a tie through for anti-normal entertainment. I have this crippling fear of like being a phony and like being a copycat and being a, somebody that's just, copying somebody else. And like, there isn't a normal. So like whatever, who you are, like bringing your personality out and things. And I think that people tend to be attracted to, people that tend to be themselves. And I think ADHD's like taught me how to just, all right, I'm going to be myself. There is no such thing as a normal. So whoever I am, just let people know that. And, the people that like that are going to be attracted to who I am and what I do. And the people that aren't are going to be repulsed or repelled by it. And that's okay. I
would even say that's a good thing. Cause it's like, you want to work with people you want to be around, right. You don't want to work with people you don't want to be around.
Yeah. There's what I've found is there's not a whole lot of people that are lukewarm towards me. They either like me or they don't like me. And it's pretty clear. And, I'm okay with that. I think just, even me being a father, to my kids, especially my daughter is like, she's a freshman in high school, which can be a rough thing as you're trying to find out who you are and some of the friendships. And I'm like, Abby, be yourself. Like be yourself, because, if you're not yourself, you're going to be attracting people to this thing that's not you. And you're not going to really like those. So like, and you're not going to please everybody. Some people are not going to like what you're putting out there. But that's okay. Like, you don't really want to spend time with those people anyways. Yeah. So be yourself and you'll attract the people that you want to be around and you'll repel the people you don't want to be around. And, I've later in life, and I think a lot of that has to do with like my ADHD, like hiding a lot of that, not even not knowing it, but just hiding some of those negative characteristics of that, of like, I'm bad at communication. Like I'm a bad texter. I'm a bad emailer, like all of these things that I was like, I just suck at this. Like I've had jobs before. I used to work for this church. I did not get one raise the entire time because what they focused on was, well, Steve, we have a rule that you're supposed to email within 24 hours and but I helped raise this program to the best it's ever been, but don't get a raise because we're bad at these like communication-y things. And like, I hate talking about that, but it's like, I've never been good at those things. And so because of that, I felt like less than, unworthy, because a lot of the metrics that people base a lot of these things on are those of somebody that's able to have these functioning and not looking at the things that are like, are the things that people tend to reward aren't the things necessarily that I'm good at, or people with this ADHD brain tend to be good at, because they're not really that quantifiable in a lot of ways. It's just the way people make you feel, like a creative idea, like none of those things are getting recorded on, yearly reviews.
Yeah. It's like things that are harder to track, like the metrics of, like coming up with creative ideas. No one has a spreadsheet of like, oh, they came up with this creative idea at this time.
Exactly.
But like an email, you could clearly see like, oh, they didn't send it at this time. Right. And it's like you're tracking only the analytical and not the other things that are important.
So I've started, and that's been terrible. Like in my life, like I've like some of the, where I just feel like, oh, I'm not going to fit in somewhere because the things that I'm good at are not the things that are being rewarded, being, so I think that's where like the trivia came in. It's like, I'm really good at this, like I'm really good about being in front of people and helping build that room into a community of people that want to come back and feel part of something. And, those people coming back is that reward. Those people at the end of the night being like, dude, this was so much fun. Can I refer you to, my company to do their party? Like, finally, there's something that is filling that up and letting me feel the rewards for some of those things that I'm doing, which is why I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Now, speaking on the shame part, is that something that you wrestled with in the past before you were kind of more open about having ADHD?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of times where, you just don't get back to somebody, or it hurt sitting down in a yearly review, and your raises and everything are based on that, and being like, well, you didn't meet the standard. And I'm sitting here like, I thought I was going to come in here and be like, you killed it this year. Like this program that we're running is, it's doing really well. We're getting all these people coming. It's getting great feedback. And then, all that got pointed out was kind of like some of the, the negative things, which are things that too, which is, we even had some of these Myers-Briggs meetings, and like, they knew this stuff about me, and, so I have it even in high school, like me not turning in stuff, and, me doing really well on tests, but I'd get bad grades because things wouldn't get turned in, or, things would be sloppily done last minute, and not done the right way through that whole process, or I didn't show my work. I'm like, right, but I got the right answer. Like, and I know how to do it, but this is dumb, because why do I need to show my work when obviously I know how to do it? Those kind of things just really bothered me, kind of like with you. I know I'm going to show up and do a good job on this ADHD thing. Don't make me do all this. Don't make me do all this work, Travis. But anyways.
Yeah. What are some examples of ways, whether it's positive or negative or both, that it's affected relationships you have?
Yeah, I think for me, positive I think people really, for the most part, feel cared about, like when they have my attention, because one of the things that they talk about in these books is like, we're a spotlight, where it's like wherever our attention is getting like all of our attention. Yeah. And so, at times, I'm
flattered.
Yeah, you're getting all of it. We've got literal spotlights over here. And you're going to get that. You're going to get my attention. I'm going to be thinking about like how I can make you feel the most cared about, the most loved, and the most valued that I can when you have my attention. Yeah. And then when you don't, I'm going to be doing that for wherever my attention is. Yeah. And so I think in a positive way, like people feel thought about, people feel cared for. I love at Blink Tees doing our year-end gifts to people, which by the way, we still haven't given to them, but they're going to be awesome and they're going to be thoughtful, and they're going to be coming out really soon. But like, I love getting to do that because people are going to feel thought about and cared about. But also if you don't have that attention, it might be like, yo, hey, like where's, what's going on? Like where are we at here?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the positive and negative. One of the things I've been trying to really, really do is respond no matter what.
Yeah.
So like even respond, be like, yo, I got your message. I got a million things going on, but like, I want to give you a thoughtful response. And can you please, like, if you don't hear from me in a week, can you please remind me, like even just sending those things out so they know it's not like, hey, I'm avoiding you or So I'm just trying to at least respond to everything no matter what. Cause I think for the most part, I want to get to that when I can give a caring, thoughtful response. And then I just don't. And then I'm just look terrible. Yeah. And so
would you say you feel like you're also a people pleaser in a way? Because I could see those two kind of clashing sometimes then.
I am. And then I also, there's times where I just don't care. Yeah. Like the people that I think respect other people and value other people and care about other people, I really do want to please them. I really want to show them that I appreciate what they're doing, what they're saying, what they value. But honestly, people that don't seem to like value people or care about people or, seem a little elitist and seem, like they're trying to be better than other people. I truly don't care what those people tend to think about me. Yeah. So, that's something I've honed over the last number of years where it's like, hey, like the people that you value their thoughts and opinions, great. Like I value that. Yeah. The people I don't, sometimes it's a badge of honor actually when they don't like you. Yeah. You're like, all right. That's verified. That's awesome.
Yeah. You're doing something right. If not everyone likes you, right? So
I think so. Yeah, truly.
So I would love to hear kind of like the day-to-day, like, Are there systems you've put into place with your business that have made things, I don't know if easier is the right word, but just like things where the parts where you do feel like are a struggle, are there like systems you've found or things you've implemented that just make that easier for you?
Yeah. So one is people, like having somebody there to support you if you can. I know not everybody's in a position to literally pay somebody to like, manage a lot of those things. Us with Blink Tees have been able to do that with Anti-Normal. The money goes to the family. So, my wife is happy to manage those because it's helping our family get some money that way. Just having people or I was gonna say like researching software, and that can be like a task of its own where it's like I spent 2 weeks and haven't gotten anywhere, and I think too there's a dopamine rush with trying to find like a new gadgety like novel thing to do when it's like no, just sit down and use your iCal, your Google Calendar probably works for a lot of those things, but I'm always out looking for a piece of software that'll make my life easier, and I think, I use Notes a ton, like my Apple Notes, because it goes to my computer, it goes to my phone. You can collaborate with people. So like there's different checklists that I collaborate with Jeff, I collaborate with Jordan, I collaborate with Julian. My kids have ones that, so I'll just throw things in that are checklists. And then there's a few, there's a thing called Focus Mate, which is helpful. There's this concept in ADHD called body doubling. So basically that means like if I need to accomplish something, just literally having another human doing work, even their own work, like just sitting next to that person does something in my brain that allows me to sit here and get work done. Even if you're not checking in on me, even if you're working on something completely different. And so there's a thing called Focus Mate that you can actually jump on and be like, hey, I want to work at 8:00, and somebody can jump on with you all over the world. And they're just sitting there on camera and you're just doing your own thing.
That's cool.
That was something I utilized for a long time.
I feel like that could help really any creative. Cause like, especially ones who are stuck editing or something, you can kind of get into a rut where it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I want to stand up. I'm getting distracted or whatever, so just having someone on the screen next to you or whatever, and they're doing something almost is like more accountability. Kind of like, I don't know if you feel this, like when you go to the gym, like you might not even know anyone at the gym, but there's just other people at the gym. You kind of feel like motivated to keep going because it's like, oh, there's other people here. So I should keep working out because I got here after them. So I should leave after them, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of the same thing I could see where even if you don't have ADHD, just if you have trouble focusing on like an edit or something, it's like to just have someone else there in the room or on a screen and just that accountability that's happening.
Yeah. And for me, I've also tried to tie like, I don't know, there's something about my environment where when I get in a certain environment, I'm able to, and I've tied that to a certain kind of task. That's been awesome for me. Yeah. So I've got this little plush like desk thing that I sit on my couch.
Yeah.
If I have a certain kind of TV show on at the time, like that's where I do a certain kind of work.
Yeah.
Or, you know, we just had our kitchen renovated and there's this, you know, there's this counter spot that I'll do a certain thing at. I have my office here at Bell Works that I will do certain things at. And so I've tried to like make it novel in that way where it's like, all right, when I do these things, my body is telling me I need to accomplish these things. And I've kind of tricked myself into doing that. So, you know, that used to be like at a loaded coffee shop with a bunch of people, I would do a certain task.
Yeah.
So that's something that has worked for me too. So something to try, just like tying a certain task with a certain environment. And like when you get in, if you can get yourself into that environment, it's tricked me into like being able to like be focused in that particular environment. So I have a handful of them that I will use for those different things.
That's a good idea. I never really thought about that. Again, I think that's like something practical to anyone, even if you don't have ADHD. If you just get into those ruts and you go to the same place every time, it's like maybe you should assign certain tasks to certain places just to mix it up.
Yep.
So I want to ask you, Steve. So if you, let's say you lost your ADHD brain tomorrow, would you want it back?
Like I lost my whole brain.
Well, you get another brain.
Okay.
Or like that, whatever. I don't know what happens. Again, we're not doctors and scientists, but whatever happens in there that makes you ADHD, if they like turn that off and you don't have ADHD anymore.
So if they say it's like some people will say it's like a miswiring, you know, right. I say it's a different wiring.
Right.
But if that got rewired to have a neurotypical brain.
Yeah. It's like you have a USB-A and they switched it with USB-C or something. I don't know.
Got it. I think I would want to live in that for about a month.
Yeah.
I want to see what that feels. I want
how miserable.
I want to see what that feels like, and then I would immediately want to go back. Yeah. I just think there's like when I hear about these things, like even with the TPM and the default mode. When I heard about that, I'm like, I didn't know it was possible that people could shift from one to the other. Yeah. Like me, it's always there all the time. Yeah. And like when I heard that, I'm like, wait, what? That's a thing that people could actually do. And it's like, oh, most people, that's what actually happens. So I would love to live in that for a while. But yeah, I don't know. Like I always joke, you know, I'm sitting across from you, but I'm like, would I want to be boring? I'm like, no, why would I, you know, ADHD people tend to be a good time, you know, and I like being a good time, and, you know, I'm used to kind of living in that chaos. And I think, I'm positive I'd want to go back to it.
Yeah, that's great. If someone was listening to this episode and they feel they have ADHD, or they think maybe they have ADHD and they feel like their brain is broken, what would you tell them?
So I would make sure, like, when you start to learn about this, find the things that this is a positive for and lean into those. And the things where you found that can be challenging or there's a negative perception of those, like, understand that some of those things you may need to find processes for. Right. You may need to find people for those things. Other times you can avoid them altogether, and like, why sharpen something that's never going to get sharp? But just understand that those are going to be things in the world that you know, are going to be negatively perceived, are going to cause you some strife. But yeah, it is definitely, for me, it's been knowing what has been going on. Cause that's a problem, is before I didn't know what was going on. Yeah. You know, I didn't know. I just thought I sucked. You know, I just thought, but not using that as an excuse, but also still trying to get better at things, still trying to make your world a better place, still trying to, you know, be a good friend, neighbor, family member, spouse, can be challenging. Yeah. But now that you've learned kind of why things are going on, it doesn't mean that you now have an excuse, but now you kind of have a responsibility to, you know, to put those things into the proper perspective. Yeah.
Have you tried things like habit stacking that they speak about in that book? Does that kind of stuff help too?
Yeah, that's awesome. Cause you know, for us, like, for me, at least, I can get overwhelmed when I've got a big task list. Yeah. Or when it's like, all right, even last night, you know, I got home from this event that I had worked for 2 straight days, and it was like, all right, well, now you have to, there's a bunch of stuff that you have to do. And I'm like, oh no, but with atomic habits, with habit stacking, it's literally, you put all these things, you build these habits, and then it's like pushing a set of dominoes. So really, I just have to focus on doing that one thing.
Yeah.
And then that one thing is automatically going to get this thing done. So I don't have to worry about my morning routine. Yeah. I just have to get up and get showered. Yeah. And if I get up and get showered, then that's going to be tied to this other habit that's formed from that. So really for somebody with my brain, being able to just be like, I just got to do this one thing. Yeah. If I do this one thing, then all these other things become a byproduct of that. It takes time to turn those things into habits. But if you're able to do those just one at a time till that one becomes a habit, now you're adding another one in front of that. Like it is a very powerful concept.
Yeah. I think even in the Faster Than Normal book, he had talked about like he goes to bed in his like gym clothes or something. Yep. And naturally it just kind of everything else happens. Whereas like when he wouldn't do that, it was like it just go off the rails.
Yeah. I know someone, it's about getting into those gym shoes and they're right by and if I get into those gym shoes, then it's going to start my run. And from my run, then my coffee started. And then just getting that one thing that you got to do to get the day started. I firmly believe it was James Clear, I think is the author. Yeah. Great book. Great concept.
So Steve, we're kind of coming in for a landing here. Okay. Let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, wow, I sound a lot like Steve. Maybe I actually have ADHD and I didn't know I did.
I'm sorry.
Or they're like, oh, I sound like Travis. I'm super analytical and I definitely don't have it. But let's say they think maybe they do have it. Yeah. Like, what do they do from here? Like, do they immediately go to a doctor? Do they test themselves?
Oh, I thought you were going to say self-medicate. They start bumming Adderall off of people.
Don't self-medicate.
Yeah, no.
That's called illegal drugs. We do not promote illegal drugs on this podcast.
No, I would, there's a lot of cool, like free, like, hey, do I have ADHD? Because I do think a lot of people now that just with social media, like people's attention spans have been shortened.
Yeah. Then they say our attention span's less than a goldfish now.
Is it really?
It's actually true, but I've heard.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So there is some of that is, just made people's attention spans less, but I would go on to one of these things. If it looks like, hey, I might have it, definitely go get it checked out. Like you can go, it's called CHADD, CHADD. It's like children and adults with attention deficit disorder or something like that, but it's CHADD, CHADD, and there's different therapists. I would go to one of them, and just set up an appointment, get officially diagnosed. Cause then, sometimes medication can be that option. Yeah. For me, it's been great. It's been something that has been helpful. I've gone off of it and on at different times. And, definitely don't just take, oh, I sound like Steve, so I have ADHD, or, hey, I took this online thing. But yeah, if it turns out that you are, like, go, like there's people that can help you, like me, I said, there's a lot of shame in that. There's a lot of guilt in that. There's a lot of like letting people down in that. Yeah. And if you can, find someone that can help you, that is trained to do that, I would highly recommend that.
Well, anything else you want to share, Steve?
No, man. Come out to a trivia night, buy some t-shirts, and go to one of our networking events and get your videos done by Travis. He's a very, very talented man.
I appreciate that. Speaking of that, where are the best places for people to find you?
So blinktees.com. If you want stuff, there's a form that we can get a quote and we bust those out pretty quickly. Anti-normal.com is where you can go find our trivia nights, or if you want me to go to a private event, I can do that there. And then villagenetworking.com is where eventually, where I haven't hooked up yet, but that's where you'll be able to see all of our networking events.
And if he takes longer than 24 hours to reply to the email, please give him a little bit of grace.
Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely. A lot of grace. That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me, Steve. I really appreciate you opening up on this topic. I think it's a topic that I've heard many people ask me about, and I feel like it's very common in our creative space. So I just thank you for coming on and sharing some wisdom on it.
Yeah. Awesome. And too, if you guys have heard about that, like steve@blinktees.com, like that's my email address, hit me up. I'd be happy to, share anything that I can, and might take me a little while to get back to you, but awesome. I will respond to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. And until next time, stay creative.